So now I am delighted to introduce a dear friend, a fellow birder, a triathlete, and maybe one of the most generous and hardworking humans I know anywhere in the world. And luckily, we have her here in this part of the country. So Nurit's going to do one of the state of place and let us know what she's seeing across the different vantages that she gets to see. So thank you for being here.
That very kind introduction. I'm not currently a triathlete. That was something I did many years ago. First I just want to say thank you to Sean and Sideporch. When I met Sean, he was very clearly a kindred spirit, a natural connector, and I loved the Climate Week event that you hosted last year. And once again, you just brought together so many of my favorite people in one place to have thoughtful conversations, and that is good for my personal resilience in this difficult and dark time. Like many of you, I had family and friends who lost homes in the Palisades and in the Eaton fire. And so, this has been a very challenging year. And resilience, as Sean mentioned, is all about how do we respond to shocks and stressors as individuals, as organizations. And so really appreciating this very thoughtful conversation on that topic. For those who missed the morning session, there was some amazing conversation, and one of the things I want to elevate or highlight was the discussion of the importance of really having a community-led rebuild. And the rebuild is not going to look the same for Palisades and for Altadena, and it does need to center in the community, in the affected residents, and really working with community-based organizations. So USGBC California is convening some workshops starting tomorrow in Pasadena where they're really bringing together the community. I know Very Exchange earlier this week hosted a resident kind of visioning session for Palisades residents. And so that work is so critical in order to move forward in a way that is really meaningful and rooted in these communities. One of the things that I'm seeing that is challenging and keeps me up at night is just as we have these nearly unfightable wildfires that we faced, we also have these wildfires of misinformation. And there's been, both during the fires and after the fires, a lot of things flying around that are just not rooted in science, not rooted in facts, and it's causing a lot of fear and a lot of challenges. Thankfully, County of LA has convened a Blue Ribbon Commission, is working with UCLA to bring together experts, but there's still this huge disconnect. And one of the areas where that is true is around vegetation management. So, people think fire means one thing for California, but it really doesn't. California is a biodiversity hotspot globally. Our biodiversity is that special that it's actually like a globally recognized hotspot, meaning we both have an incredible amount of biodiversity and it's incredibly threatened. And so different regions of California have different ecology, and what it takes to fight and prevent fire in Northern California in forested areas versus in Southern California and in our chaparral communities is really different. And people very much don't understand that. And so in the fear that we're all feeling after these horrific events, we're seeing widespread vegetation removal or angry calls for vegetation removal, when here in Southern California, taking out too much of the chaparral, you just end up with more flammable invasive plants like mustard. There's also a lot of people removing healthy trees and healthy vegetation from their property, when if you dig into CAL FIRE's guidelines, they're really clear that healthy trees can help stop embers and are fire protective, and that's especially true of our native trees like oaks. And so this, how do we engage the community and make sure that people have good information, is really key. And then as we're creating regulations, like some of the ones that are being considered by the state right now, one of the things that makes systems resilient is the ability to adapt and change. And so a lot of the science is still being developed. A lot of the information just on this fire is not there yet. We have scientists from multiple institutions across the city who are testing for toxins in the soil and doing the air quality testing and looking at the impacts on the ocean. And they will also be studying the impact of the different landscape and build areas that we have. But we need to be able to design our policies and our regulations to respond to that science as it develops and to keep those conversations coming. All of these challenges that we're facing are around complex systems. We're talking about complex ecological systems and complex systems of governance. We've seen that we need to bring together, public agencies, private companies, nonprofit organizations in order to solve these challenges. And so, I would really say some of the great opportunities here are understanding that complexity, honoring it, and working together to find solutions that solve multiple crises at once. Balancing the trade-offs between seismic and fire safety, trying to work together on the climate and biodiversity crises. So in addition to USGBC California's guide that they mentioned this morning, Resilient Palisades, a local organization, has just come out with guidelines that really honor that and talk about nature-based solutions and water resilience and everything that we're facing together. So I'm really looking forward to continuing the conversation. I sadly won't be joining you this afternoon. I had a prior conflict, but you can find me at that QR code, I guess. Also, Commissioner Katz at LABWP.com. I am currently serving as a commissioner for the utility, or sustainability at UCLA.edu for the UCLA side. Really looking forward to engaging in continuing conversation. And one last thing, I can see the cane coming, but I am really glad that the conversation this afternoon will be about financing, because as a colleague of mine used to say, vision without funding is just hallucination. So I'm really glad that this conversation is being convened, and we'll see how we can make it happen. Thank you very much.
This next speaker, if there's anything we could leave people with, we thought, are there some ideas we could hold in mind about when we are going into high pressure, high stakes environments, and then how do we come out of these environments as humans and as teams and communities? Dan is someone I have learned from and with. We built companies together focused on performance under pressure. Dan works with first responder and other communities around the world on these exact issues. So we're really blessed to have him in our lives, but also to have him here to share a few ideas hopefully you can take away as you move into your weekend. Dan, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, folks. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everybody, for being a part of this. I'm really honored to be here with you all. I'm an ER doctor by training. I run this think tank, the Critical Team Institute. Loosely defined, if there are things that go bump in the night and you need to bring a team against that thing, we're going to call to help you figure that team out. So I just want to drop you into my world, right? So this is my world in the ER. This is LA General Medical Center. This is one of my former students. And I love this picture because this woman trained her entire life to be in those shoes, leading this team, and you can see the amount of pressure that she's under, right? You see it in her eyes. So this is the space that I live and operate in. And I'm going to tell you a story about this space. And it's a story that's going to have suffering and death in it. And I'm not going to tell you that because I want to shock you with suffering and death. If you're in this room, you've been exposed to that in one way or another anyway. But I'm going to tell you that because when Sean and his family went through the fires in their version of it, he called me up and he said, Dan, you've seen a lot of terrible things. What do you have for afterwards? I was like, thanks, Sean, that's great. But I think the point of this story is what happens afterwards, right? What happens after what I'm just about to tell you. So it's a few years ago, and I'm working in a small hospital in Northern California, a lot less sophisticated than what we have here, but full of amazing men and women who are out there trying to protect their community and hold the line. And it's been a long shift, it's a long day, and the disaster radio goes off. The paramedics say, hey, we're incoming code 3, lights and sirens. We have this woman, we don't know what happened, we scooped her up from home, there's drug paraphernalia everywhere, and Doc, she looks terrible. She's barely breathing. So my team and I go to a room, we spin up everything that we can think of, we don't know what's about to come in, and by the time they get her into our ER, she's barely breathing. By the time they move her over to the table, she's stopped. And her heart stops right in front of us. And we go to work. And for whatever reason, it's basically cursed from the beginning. Everything we try falters, there's friction everywhere, and things fail. We can't find IVs to put into her. We can't connect the pads that we shock her heart with to the machine that we use to shock her heart. We struggle to get the breathing tube in. For whatever reason, it's one problem after another. And as the seconds and the minutes go by, we're doing CPR, we're trying everything we can, we're starting to realize, I don't think we're going to get this woman back. Right? I think we're going to lose her. But she's young, and we don't know what happened, and we hate that. Right? We hate not being able to save people. So we try everything, and I make the decision to pull this sort of rarer thing out, and I'm gonna open up her chest, because I think that's what she'll need. So fine, one side goes okay, and we're rushing, and we're tired, and we're stressed. And so I go to do the other side, and instead of opening her chest, I managed to drive a really large needle deeply into my hand. And so here's your first thing, then what? Because you're hurt, but there's still a woman who needs your help. So what do? That needle goes on the floor and you get another needle. Then you open the other side of your chest. And it doesn't work. And she dies. And when somebody dies in our shop, we take a moment and we put our hand on that human and we say, in this case, thank you for teaching us, ma'am. I'm sorry all we could do for you today is to learn. Right? I'm sorry all we could do for you today is to learn. And then we take a step back and we start debriefing, because we have to be better for the next person that comes in. And I am fired up. I am not happy with how we did. I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, my team wasn't doing, I knew we could do better. And I'm spinning everybody up, and we're getting ready to go, and I'm, all right, folks, let's get ready, let's go to the next phase, let's do the next thing. And one of my nurses comes and puts their hand on my shoulder and says, Dan, you are still bleeding. You are still bleeding. We cannot have a technical discussion about what's happening next while you are bleeding on the floor. And I look down and I'm literally bleeding on the floor. And I take a step back and I fix my hand. And then we come together and we start talking. And the truth is, when we go through hard things, when we go through bad things, when we are hurt, when our communities are hurt, we have a natural reaction to move forward. We want to fix things, we want to change things, we want to strike while the iron's hot, right? We want to fix things. And there are times in our careers, in my career, when you have to move from one room to another as fast as possible, because that next person's dying too. And it really is a crisis, and you really can't slow down. But when it's not that moment, what we need to do is also take some time to fix ourselves, right? So we're here, we're in this room, we're talking about what it means to rebuild, to grow the next phase of stuff, to use the technology, to do everything. And we also have to take the time to fix ourselves, right? To slow down, to do the important but drastically unsexy work of getting sleep, of drinking water, of checking on our families and our communities, of slowing down and taking the time and space to reflect on what just happened, right? So Sean comes to me and says, Dan, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I'm feeling like I'm not doing enough. I'm not active enough. I don't know how to fix things. And I go back to that moment in my life where I'm bleeding on the floor. And I tell him, Sean, you gotta patch yourself up first. You gotta slow down, and you gotta take that one extra breath. So Sean asked me to share that story with you, in the hopes that there's some hidden wisdom in there. And what he specifically asked for is, and I quote, 3 magic tools that people can take home with them to get better in a crisis. Right? So here are my magic tools, in as much as there are any, and they're all hidden in this story somewhere. So first off, you have to track the integral of your effort, not that exact moment. Okay? If I judged my entire capacity as an ER doctor based on that one case, I would have quit. But instead, it's the integral. What is the integral of my work over time? Maybe I can't solve everything, but is the universe a better place because I stand up and fight with it every day? Right? What is the integral of your work? Second one is you have to do the off work. The on work is easy, it's fun, it's sexy, it's going to places that are in trouble and doing things and building and deconstructing. The off work is the slow start. It's making sure you get to sleep at night. It's drinking water. It's bandaging up your finger when you're hurt, right? You have to do the off work so that you are capable of doing the on work, right? And the last one is the single thing that I've learned the most from being a ER doctor is that we can never waste suffering. Suffering is too precious a resource. So all of us in here have gone through suffering, right? In one form or another, it's bright and in our face, or it's a little dimmer and a little farther away, but it's there. The challenge is, what do you do with it, right? I tell that story about that woman. I don't know her, I don't know her family. But by telling it to you, and you now owning it, we honor her memory and her family's memory. And we can not waste her suffering. So hopefully there's some hidden wisdom in there, and it's useful and interesting. Thank you guys for all of the building you're doing, the on work and the off work. Think about the integral of what happens after this.
Kristen's going to come up really quick. This is going to be a rapid one that we're getting to the panel. Kristen, we got a call about a month ago from one of our folks here on the stage coming up, but also a company called Rain that is working to try and help prevent fires. And we got asked if we could deploy someone on site 24/7 to be able to help them run through some really critical lines of effort. Kristen just drove back down from the East Bay up north, where she's been doing this 24/7 for a couple weeks, and is going to share a little bit about an exciting technology that we're going to then hopefully roll into with the investors and the technologists. So thank you very much, Kristen. Here you go for like 1 minute.
Thank you, and go. Hi everyone, thanks for having me. My name is Kristen McGee. Thank you, Sean and Sideporch. The reason I had the opportunity to work so closely with the Rain team is because of the Sideporch team, so I do recognize that. I have been working with the Rain team to really align operations and strategy for upcoming wildfire demos, like the one you see here. Rain recently demonstrated autonomous capabilities with their technology, and we are partnering. I love Nurit mentioned a localized approach and working with communities. We as a company are very much adamant about working directly with fire agencies, directly with fire professionals to bring this technology to life. We are not preventing wildfires, Sean. That is not something that unfortunately we cannot do, but we can mitigate the risk and give a new level of power and control, new layer of power and control to fire professionals who need it most. So early detection and rapid response is really the main focus of the technology, and there's going to be more to come with this. I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys in the room. I know you guys know the urgency of the issue, and I'm happy to meet you all after this.
I just want to thank Sean. This was an amazing day. That last panel was fantastic, and those are the solutions we need. The good and bad news. The good news is I think the response to this disaster has been phenomenal. We really haven't seen anything like it since the Northwich earthquake. I think that informs for us the fact that people will rise up, new ideas will occur, people will coalesce. I think right now government is really trying to get their act together, and I think this is the creative chaos part that you see right after you've had the disaster occur. The good news is I'm also a regulator of the state grid, and I think the way we're going to move energy is going to be a lot different moving forward, and I think we have a lot of opportunity for change. And it's really good to see a lot of private sector investors and innovators and community organizers here today, because you will be the change. So that's it.